everybody, and welcome back to Bourbon Over Baseball with your host Bob and co-host Jeff today.
What up?
All right, we're back in for doing some more 2000 pennant breakdowns, continuing on our list today, and we're going to do another one for you.
You got a diamond, you got 9 men, you got a hat and a bat, and that's not all.
That is awesome.
That's what I'm talking. That's what every single one of these should be. Right?
Yeah, this is like got a.
You got the bleachers,
just cool.
Got them from spring till fall. You got a dog and a drink and the umpire's call.
It just really, I don't know. I like it. Old like Oregon type jams.
That had to have been like an '80s like commercial to go to a Blue Jays game, right? Right? Like I don't know what else that would be if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, I mean
that's
awesome. That's fantastic. So again, I don't know the song obviously at all because I don't really follow the Blue Jays, so someone else can verify. But that was what came up, and I thought it was amazing. I came up with a couple sources. So we are doing the Toronto Blue Jays. So we haven't done them yet. A little fun team. Couple good cards to talk about, obviously. So as we go down, we'll break it down for you. So first up, we got Tony Batista. Not a great card here, getting the 7, but a lot of power. If that's what you're looking for.
A lot of power,
yeah.
Right? He's like, I mean, for 310, again, like my whole thing is like, for a certain value, right? In this case, 310, like, are you getting enough, right? Is it checking multiple boxes? Chart is checking multiple boxes because it just rips. That's an incredible box. Defense is good. Like speed could be better, but not bad. I'm sure he would have been a speed B like 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
Worst thing is on base, but again, like not the worst for 310. I love the double at 13 is great. The fact he's still 1-4 fly ball, like that's just not the worst. Like especially I know it's super situational, but in 5-6 walk only, there's a lot of things here. I definitely don't.
He didn't walk much. And if you guys like, and you could do this too, Jeff, if you don't really, I don't know if you know Tony Batista very well, but Google his batting stance.
I'll do it right now.
So people, and I kind of want to hear Jeff's reaction because if anybody's seen his Blue Jays batting stance, well, I guess he did it for his whole career, but it is quite goofy.
Oh, it's like the super open stance.
It's like he literally staring at the pitcher, like just standing there. Like I'm like, are you ready? Like
I almost need to watch a video, but yeah, it's like it's funny. I just searched Tony Batista and it already like autocorrects to batting.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, this is a thing. Like
it's wacky. It was one of the ones that like people used to joke and intimidate back in the day. So it was one of those funky stances.
Dude, it's kind of like a power stance, like just like I am facing you, you know, like
and I'm still gonna hit this ball. Like it's weird.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that. I did not know that.
So yeah, it's again okay card. Next up, Homer Bush. Not that bad. I've actually drafted this card a lot, not a lot, but I've drafted this card because I like A-speed players, and an 8 is pretty solid. And again, no walks here, and again, maybe a lot of singles, but he's got a pretty decent chart for 290. It's not horrible. If you don't need to get a lot of fielding on second base, I like it.
Yeah, it's. I think this actually probably does more, like I'm saying, like doing multiple things at once. Mm-hmm. I think the, double at 17, on base 8, under 300, like, holy shit, that's awesome. Like, the 2 to 5 ground ball is definitely the worst thing on here.
But he's A-speed, so he can beat it out.
Right. So, like, I think, like, in theory, those two kind of almost cancel out. Like, and no walk is great. There's just not many no walks, if I remember. Like, a lot of single range. But, again, like, I mean, if depending on how deep your team goes, like, not the worst number 1 batter, right? If you've got a 9 or 10 kind of following in 2 or 3 spot. I'm kind of surprised. So I looked at, I always reference our mini league that we did. And kind of just to give you I know it was 2000, 2001. So it's kind of tough to,
it's not apples for apples.
right. Exactly. But, kind of surprised that nobody from this team got drafted. The 2001 team does, but nobody from the 2000. Which, again, maybe I think it's a depth thing. I mean, again, I feel strongly that if you had an 8 team was doing like, let's say even just 2000 only, I think Batista, I think Bush, I think there's a couple other guys in this team that definitely get looked. I just think that when we're, there's a lot of players to fill certain spots, like you can kind of really nitpick into the specifics to get some better players.
So I'll tell you some stats here real quick. So he had 32 stolen bases, which is pretty solid.
That's great.
He had less walks than Batista, the guy before him, but he had 120 more plate appearances and less walks. So that's why I'm guessing the no walks on his chart. Obviously, in the Showdown world, that works out pretty decent because you don't really want to walk. But obviously, it's for a team that probably is not great. But with no walks, still getting like a 353 on base percentage is actually quite impressive, in my opinion. Because to get on base, usually the guys that walk a lot are the guys that are getting there.
Right, for sure.
So, quite interesting. Next up, we have Jose Cruz Jr., another A-speed guy, which, again, so far, if this was your team, just these three guys, you're pretty happy. You got like a 7-powered, a couple A-speed 8s. It's okay. 320, great. Pretty big walk range here. Has a lot of chart, though, after that. I don't necessarily want this guy, but he's not bad. You got the OF +1. I don't know. He's okay. He's good.
Right. No, I think he's solidly good. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I think that he does enough things to make it justifiable to throw him on a roster.
He's just not flashy in your face, like value / like crazy.
Right. I think like you would have to. The little differences is like OF +2, or if hypothetically, less outrange, definitely less walk range. I actually don't mind having the triple, the double at 6, or even single plus at 15. It's pretty good, but 13 to 14 single is pretty brutal, especially when we've figured out that a walk is almost like half of a base hit. It just in terms of how it feels and like how it like generates runs in Showdown. So yeah, definitely. I mean, again, you hit it on the head. Like having these guys first 3 is great. Like I mean, again, I'm surprised this team was barely above 500 in that 99 season. It must be just from just kind of
some
really
of the pitching. We'll show you.
Yeah. Well,
some of it.
A lot of guys just kind of in the middle of on base. Like nobody super great. Like there's one that you'll see the foil, but yeah, I think they kind of just middle out, and that's probably why this team kind of ended up with the record like it did.
Yeah. Plus, they're obviously have to face like the Yankees and all that. Like,
yeah, they're in a tough
help. Division.
Also, super short. You don't have to swap back, but hopefully it comes back up. But Homer Bush, I think, was wearing
the red cap.
The red cap that has to have been spring training.
Mm-hmm.
Super awesome, like blue bill, red cap, Blue Jays logo, which has always truthfully been one of my favorite logos.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's just so much.
Yeah, I actually did not like it when they went to that like other Blue Jay with like the J, not cursive, but it was like the big J as it was like swooping. I much prefer this one, or the one they have now with the circle is pretty decent as well. I'm okay with that. Yeah. This one was nice. I like this
they
one.
Just did that like I think that's the one that's like it was like that's a 2000s like an odd thing. Like it's just
in this Jose Cruz Jr. I actually kind of wish that the logo on the helmet was a little bigger. It looks so tiny.
Right.
And kind of I wish it was much larger, but the obviously on the baseball hat of Homer Bush it's quite proportioned, but it seems like on this helmet it's like a little tiny stamp.
Right.
So, all right. Next up, the big man. See, look at the logo on his hat. Like that's the proportions that I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's like what like I don't. Yeah, you're right. I don't get it. Like, unless they had a small amount of space to fit. that logo maybe doesn't work on a larger scale. I don't
know. Anyway, Carlos Delgado sucks these C-speed. No on base or no fielding here, but he's a monster. 9 on base guy with a lot of power. Sucks that he got the 1 through 5 out. A lot of walks here, so you're probably not getting him in this year. Obviously, you want him probably in the 2001 where he's an 11, one of the 2 11s. But he had a great year. He had 44 homers, 134 RBIs. It just stinks. His card is good. A 917 home run is a great card, but I feel like it could have been a little bit better.
Yeah,
but maybe 410 is the right range. I just don't know. I usually don't buy into a guy like this, especially C-speed. I try to avoid it.
This is like our whole theory that like I think that the 2000 year like was or like the first set, like they were slightly overvaluing homers. You know, which is fine. Like it's flashy, it's fun. Like everybody wants that. And that's probably why he gets that 410, because otherwise it's not the best. But you know what? I'm kind of okay with it at 410. He serves this purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Speed C is terrible. I don't care about a +0 first base defense. And he does everything else I would want for about that amount, you know?
Yeah. He's probably positioned right, about 400 points is probably right. And maybe I'm wrong here. I'm not feeling great about this card. Obviously, it also sucks because we obviously know the 2001 version of him, and that's the one I usually look at.
Oh yeah, no.
Versus one, but I feel like I've seen somebody play this once, and he's great. I mean, anytime you get a 9 on base that has that much power, you're bound to do well. But I don't know.
What, like, Bob, for like when you guys are making cards, like let's just say you had a chart like this, and I know we're spitballing here, but how many points extra would a guy, if let's say this card was on base 10, like how many extra points do you think that would be? Is it like 80 points? Is it 100?
I wanted to say 70, but I think it's closer to 100.
Right, because then I was going to say, like, if this, I was trying to think if this card was a 10, I mean, it'd be like who is 17 homer at 1710, and it's like Manny type of stuff, you know, like, and that's what makes me, that's the only reason it makes me think that 410 is actually like a value pick in a weird way. But I would have to look at some of the differences there, and I can do a check on base 10s at 17 and see what the difference is. But yeah, I was just kind of curious for.
And I know I've changed it back and forth. Like I've gone through different iterations where I've messed around with how much value it goes up between the two different, between a 9 and a 10. So, sometimes I've made it even where like 7 will be baseline, and then like an 8 is plus this, a 9 is plus this, 10 plus 11, and it's all the same. Then I've done some where the 11 gets more plus than not.
So I did a really quick check. So there's 4 guys. It's funny.
I do it 100. I do it 100.
Okay, it's about, because that seems to be correct, because like there's 4 cards in the 2000 set that are on base 10 in homer at 17. That's Larry Walker, Brian Giles, Manny Ramirez, and Rafael Palmeiro. I think the closest to this is probably Rafael Palmeiro, just because he's a DH. So first base kind of interwoven there. Speed C.
And what is he?
He's 520.
Okay, so it's probably about right.
But doesn't that make you think that like a 410 guy with just 1 less on base is like pretty good? Like there's a lot more. It just
depends on what you value. I mean, from what I've seen, that extra on base is worth that 100 points.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
so in my sets, and again, I've done different things, but let's just say the base one, I usually start with 7 as is a 0, and then I'll go like 8 is plus 100, 9 plus 200, 10 plus 300, 11 plus 400, and then the other way, 6 minus 100, 5 minus 200, 4 minus 300 points. So then you get points for all sorts of different things. Right, fielding, speed. And I said I've changed it in different years where I've gone to like 70 to 100 is like the first couple jumps, but then as you get to like the 10s and 11s, it jumps up higher. It just depends on how you value on base, how you value, should you value the on base more or the statistics in their chart, and each content creator can do that differently. That's just how I've done it. I know Peters. I don't know how Peters exactly is, but I know Peters works out very well. But when I did like my 96 set that I'm still working on, that's sort of what I did. So just
and I think like one thing I've thought about too, because Bob and I are going to be doing and I'm sure we'll be posting a lot of stuff about it. We're going to be doing a 2001 NL only draft.
Yes.
With NL rules of pitchers batting, and one thing I've been kind of trying to rethink a little bit, like especially just in the way that our leagues play with the 1 mistake pitch, where if you roll a 1 as a pitcher, batter gets a 24-sided die. Not to say like I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. 8s and 9s can become very, very deadly in a situation like that, because I'd rather have, if I had to pick players, I'd rather have it roll a 1 on like a, like a Tony Batista, than a 1 on a, I don't know, like even like a Carlos Delgado, just because Batista has that crazier chart. So it becomes these situations where it's like, okay, I know that a 10 is really good and they get the advantage, but to me, they're serving a different purpose because they're going to get the advantage more often than not, but they're not the ones that I definitely can rely on to do anything of power. Right. And so there's this kind of balance. And I definitely think that, Chipper Jones, Larry Walker, all those guys, they're fantastic. But I think when we're talking about leagues that are a little more deep, you have to kind of make those sacrifices clearly. And like, this is a decent sacrifice to go use that 100 points on someone else to maybe get a crazier chart. So
yeah. And I think dropping down to a 9, not much of a blink of an eye for me. Down to an 8, I'm okay. But when I start to drop to the 7, that's when we've seen the bigger drops. And that's where, when I think as a content creator, if you're going to start doing stuff with like salary, I think that's maybe where you start to maybe separate the points, because I think we've seen the 7s versus an 8 is it's a bigger drop than any other drop in positions from 11 to 10 and 10 to 9 and 9 to 8, but from 8 to 7 was like one of the biggest performance drops from a player, and obviously 6 drops off a lot too, and obviously, but you're already sort of knowing that, but I think that could be a bigger gap, so that if you're wanting 7s, you get more of a steal, in terms of salary. But it's up to each person. I mean, I don't like 7s. I don't think I'd bat an eye grabbing a 9. Some of the people I like are 9s. I really like them. So
right. If I could have a lineup full of 8s and 9s, like that'd be awesome, right? And all serving a different purpose. Maybe even a 10 Omar type kind of leading off, like that would rule. That's like an ideal lineup to me.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right. Yep. Next up, this is some of the reason why they were 500 or lower than 500.
Right.
Again, you 100% do not want a 0 that's 1 through 18 out. Again, no doubles, yay. But 16 or 160 points is just really rough for a 0. I definitely like future iterations where they've better managed the salary, because 0s are awful in Showdown. So
he did not. I mean, he had a decent record, right? He was 14-11, which on that team, like, that's. I mean, I guess that's right about where they were. The thing that killed him, his ERA was 5.7. And his whip was 1.6. So not like he led the team, or actually he didn't lead the team on ERA. He led the team in whip.
The whole team actually had pretty rough ERAs.
That's so like, I mean, as far as we've seen, and tell me if I'm wrong, that whip is probably determining. He probably wouldn't have been a 0 if they had 1s and 2s in this set.
Correct. I think he would have been different, and I don't know how. Again, we think that they based theirs more like that, where it was based off whip only. We do ours sort of like whip and ERA together. Right. That's just how we do it. But I mean, this would have been really rough because he led the team in whip in a bad direction, in terms of starting pitching, and then it had an awful ERA. So it just rough. Again, I don't want to beat him up too much, but you're not picking this guy. So.
No, yeah, definitely not.
Next up, Mr. Foil, Tony Fernandez. Pretty solid card. Obviously he had a crazy 427 on base percentage, which is
I was gonna say
awesome.
He was the anomaly, right?
Yeah. So I mean, all you had to do, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think there's probably some rares, but was basically get to a 400 on base percentage to get a 10 in Showdown for 2000, or sorry, for the 1999 season, but the 2000 set. But I mean, getting 427 is absolutely great.
Right, and this first of all, there's the spring training uniform again. Looks awesome. That hat
looks fantastic.
I need to go get that hat. I don't wear hats, but I want it.
There's a I think it was 2018's batting practice hats had that old school Toronto logo like in vinyl on it. It was a really sharp. You might like it. It was pretty sharp.
Man. I gotta look. I was looking at their the Chris Creamer Sports Photo site.
Fernandez was in the top 10 in on base percentage for the year. He was actually tied for 9th with
no
Olerud from the Mets.
Oh yeah.
So your boy.
There were 2 All-Stars on this team. We haven't gotten to one of them.
Yeah. And both of them got the foils, right?
They did. No, they did.
No,
You're right.
Didn't he?
Wait, no, I don't think he did. I think that we're gonna find out. I think the second guy did. I'm gonna guess did not, because I think his pennant run did. But that's my guess. I could be wrong. Tony Fernandez was the All-Star, so this is definitely why they gave
the other guy. The other foil got he made the All-Star too.
He did, yeah. Okay. So maybe I was wrong there. But crazy thing is just, I know some people hate WAR. I like WAR, but It's fine.
I like more.
He was fifth. He was
Yeah.
tied for fourth rather. Just tied with Homer Bush, which is funny. But yeah, the Tony Batista and Carlos Delgado both had better WAR than him. Actually, the other foil, and that makes sense because like the other guy, again, I don't want to spoil it. His WAR was almost double.
Yeah,
Everybody
he had a
else's.
really good year. But
Super
but
good
getting
year.
a 427 base percentage, he batted 328. So he is, I mean, phenomenal. And I think, I don't know, how old was he here?
He was 37. It looks like.
So, oh yeah, he was.
He was
Holy
born,
shit. So
he
to
shares a birthday with me.
Oh,
June
great.
30, June 30, 1962.
So to be at 37-year-olds still, and again, some of these power pitchers still batting 427 on base percentage, batting 323 is awesome. Like, what a fucking good hitter.
Crazy impressive.
So I love that he did that. I love that he was there, and I love that he got the foil treatment for the Showdown card. The card itself, it's good. It's not great. A lot of walk, 3 ground balls. He's got a decent double range, which is great. Not a lot of power, but he's under 400 points for 10. That's not too bad. You got a B speed.
No, I mean,
I'm not looking for it, but I like that he got it.
No, I think everybody would agree with that. Like, I wouldn't be picking him. But if I got him, like it'd be pretty cool. Like, I mean, I think that this would be the type of player, like I noticed in some of our drafts that you get to the late rounds and people are starting to kind of get a feeler of like how their salary is shaking up. And then people basically search to see who the best on base 10s left are. I've done it, right? That's how I got 2019 Carlos Santana on my team, and now he bats first for me, you know? And so like, this is where this could be. Like, he could just swoop in and become a decent number 1 batter. Cause I think other than the speed B, he's a pretty good number 1 batter. You know, he's 1 to 4 out is not, you know, it's not horrible. 5 to 9 walk, get on base is not horrible. So yeah, really interesting card. I'm also psyched he got the foil. So.
Yeah, I'm glad that too. Next up we got Darren Fletcher. Not too great here. Again, you know, it's a pretty decent team. They're getting our 8 here.
Right.
But I don't like the +5. I don't like the C speed. 1 through 5 out. He does have a decently powerful chart with a double at 15, like 3 doubles and 3 homers. That's a lot of power, especially with an 8. So that's why he's got the 290. So you're not like super mad. It sucks that he's C speed.
Right.
It's like he's just below average. Like you'd rather get to like a +7 arm. You'd like to get a B speed catcher unless you had like an amazing arm or you had an amazing chart. But he's an 8 and he hits the ball pretty hard, so you're not super mad.
Right. If you're okay with punting on a little bit of arm, this is your guy.
Yeah.
Right. This is a good pick. Like, I don't expect any of my catchers to be anything but speed C unless you're Jason Kendall.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, I don't love +5, but I've played with +5s, and you know that it's different. Like, it's different in the 2000 set, in 2001, where it's just straight 10, 15, 20 in terms of speed. I know in our leagues, like, or the custom cards, like with, you know, with the Greatest Showdown project with Bob's cards, like, when it's more variable, it matters a lot more. It's a lot different. You know, just because when you have a speed A on your 2000 team, you're paying for it, right? There's a lot of salary built in that, but having a lot of guys who are 16 and 17 and 18, like, maybe you're not paying for it as much, and like, those guys can cause havoc. So, don't hate this. Don't hate the +5 arm, and I actually love almost everything else. But yeah. Anyway, it's not bad.
Yeah. Next up, here's the big boy, and what I like about this card that most people probably didn't notice is this image reminds me of 2001 because of how zoomed in it is. Yep. You know, most 2000 cards are full body shots, and 2001s are like knee and above, and this is like the knee and above.
You're right. I love that.
Oh, it's so zoomed in. Obviously, this card's got really good. You have these high res images now, but it's so much visual on Sean Green's got this big jersey in the back, takes up a full range of the card, and then you gotta look at his card. Okay, holy shit! You know, he is worth this 540. He's a monster 917 home run guy. So this is where you talk about Delgado, but now he's the A speed. He's the plus fielding. He doubles at 14. He's got single plus. Singles at 9. I mean, the 1 through 4 out might be the worst part of this card, but he is a monster. Now, I will caveat, I've never played with him because I don't like spending 540, but I feel like he would do so much damage.
Yeah,
he had 42 homers that year. Was he 123 RBIs? 20 stolen bases. I mean, he was like a 5-tool player. He batted 309. I mean, he was a monster.
Yeah, he was led the team in 6.4 WARs, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Super good. Super good. He was all-star. Just for reference, he was 6.4 WAR. Tony Batista was 3.7.
Yeah.
So he was worth
he had
3 extra games than the next guy. So
he had 45 he led the league in doubles. I'm surprised that he only got 3 on his chart.
Right.
That they could have snuck another one. And he led the league in total bases. So he had a gold glove. I mean, he had quite the year. Like, that is an amazing performance of the year. And obviously he's a 9, which people won't really talk about then too much. But yeah, I feel like I would like to play with this guy more often because I think it'd be a fun card to play with.
yeah, I for 540, like to kind of my point before, he does a lot of things. It's crazy though, especially since he's an on-base 9, homer at 17. I can't help but compare him to Delgado.
Yeah.
And
so for 410 versus 540.
Right, 130 point difference. And you're getting, probably slightly better chart. Kind of on other parts, extra double, outfield defense, and the speed A is probably the big thing there.
I think so.
I don't know if that's 130 point difference to me.
I don't think it is. I think this guy is an amazing card, and I would love to play with him, but I feel like I want to spend like 500, 490, like somewhere there.
Right, that 130 helps me. Helps me if I pick a Delgado, just hypothetically, that 130 can go bump like maybe a low 300s card I have to like a 400s card. You know what I mean? Like that money can go elsewhere and do a lot more damage to me, in my opinion. So
yeah,
of course, in
I think
theory,
you're right.
so. But to your point, dude, this picture is bad. I don't love many teams with red and blue because they're all just so boring to me. But man, that red on that blue is just like screaming out.
I'll give you another sort of comparison. Now, I'll give you. Okay, I'm just gonna say this card. I'm not gonna tell you what it is though.
Okay.
Another guy, 9 A speed, same fielding. Okay, 560. One more out than him, more walks, less doubles, but he gets one more home run for only 20 more points. Do you take him?
For 20 more?
20 more points, you got to take an extra out, more walks, one less double, but you get the extra home run. So it's a 16 through 20.
For 20 extra, what's the double range?
So it's a 14 double.
I'd probably stick with the green, honestly.
You'd pay 20 less points to get. You get the same double range, so 14, but that 16 there is a homer instead on the other guy's chart.
Yeah, I get, but like the walk range matters. Like maybe I've just been so warped.
So the
on
walk
that.
on this guy is 6 to 12, and in green it's 5 to 8.
6 to 12 is horrible. That's
well,
like
I just think that card I'm talking about is Barry Bonds.
Okay.
So the reason
that's wild.
The reason I say that is because I think Barry Bonds being a 9 A speed at 16 homer is probably pretty close to that 540 to 560 range, whereas I think Green should be down a little bit. I think he should be down towards 500. I mean, a home run is worth a lot.
Well, or it's just that Barry was undervalued. Like
that could be true too.
It's one of those two. I think you're right. For 20-point difference, you're right. That's that extra home run is probably
because I rate home runs to about anywhere between 40 and 50 points extra for salary, depending. So he's only getting 20 more points, but then he's got an extra double. So you I don't know.
It's tough. It's almost like perfect world. You could just simulate like 100 at bats against random pitchers and see because
that's why you got to ask what's his face that did the sim league.
Right, sure. You're going to see Bonds just walk a shit ton, and the question is, does that 16 show up?
Yeah.
Sure, it might. Right, it should. Right, in theory, but is it showing up enough to and I think that's probably why they're so close. Like I'm sure
the reason I say is because it brings you all the way back to Delgado for a 9-17 for 410.
Right, we're liking that a lot more now.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of on my head. I'm like, okay, well I got Bonds at 560, so that's 150 points more. Right. But I'm getting one more home run. The reason you like him is because you're getting the A speed. Now the A speed's great, but is it worth 100? And in this case, 130 points with Sean Green. I don't know if I'd spend 130 points on A speed, but depends on what I was looking for. Again, the left field, right field is a lot more versatile. You can put almost anybody at first base. You know, it just depends.
I think that, and like, I think part of this too is why I'm like really digging on Delgado is I've played in so many I've played in so many teams or whatever that I definitely overvalue on base and I don't really value chart. Like I overvalue speed, I overvalue defense, and like what I'm going to do coming like soon, whether it's with this 01 NL draft we're going to do or not, but I'm going to look for guys that can just hit the fucking ball, right? I'm not worrying about defense. I'm not worrying about speed. It might not work out, right? I don't think, but like that's what Delgado is he just hits the fucking ball, and like I'm not like that's why I wouldn't be picking a Sean Green, right? Because I think that there's a lot of money on that speed and on that outfield. I wouldn't be picking Barry Bonds because the same reasons, right? I'm gonna go try to get those 400 guys that can just hit the ball consistently across the lineup. And, we're going to see what happens. But I think that's why I've warmed up to the Delgado types of players so much.
Yeah. Next up, Pat Hennigan. Again, far removed from his, Cy Young type seasons in the day. But this is your typical, like we've talked about a million times, your 1 through 16 out guy around the 310 to 330 range, sometimes in the 340s depending. I don't love this kind of player. It really depends on what your team's set up to be and how much you can afford. I just don't like these kind of guys.
Yeah, I've kind of same. Like I was talking with our boy Japes, who helped create that tabletop simulator for Showdown. We were talking a lot about the difference between Control 3 and Control 4, and it's kind of like almost like that on base 7 and 8 drop off.
Oh yeah.
That feels like the substantial moment, and I think that's this right, and that's like if he's a Control 4, I think you guys have talked about it's about what, like 50-60 extra points in salary.
I don't know what it is for pitching.
Because if it's around that, that's worth it, right? Like go spend the money on that, because like
mine is close to 70.
Okay, so he would be about 400. Go spend 400, because I just think that you're pitching that.
It's about like 70 to 100. It's just I do roughly the same. It's about 70 to 100 per, depending on the kind of thing you're doing. But I mean, I like same thing before. I don't blink going from a 5 to a 4 if I'm in the same tier. But I definitely have a big hesitation going from a 4 to a 3 in the same tier. Like a 4, let's say a 4 1 through 16 out, and a 3 1 through 17 out. I would not like the 3 1 through 17 out. But like a 4 1 through 16 out versus a 5 1 through 15 out, I don't mind flip flopping those guys. I can go either way,
dude. And this is exactly why Randy gets lit up in our leagues. Like, well, he's over time.
He's either completely lights out or like he's out in the 3rd or 4th inning because
he usually like out of 8 starts, he's lights out for 6 of them, and I mean truly lights out, like shutout. Not complete, maybe complete game, but he
most of the time,
right? Most of the time, but those 2 or those 1 or 2 games, oh my gosh, you're right. He's gone early, and and that's, you can't be spending that many points on a guy. I know we're talking Randy now, but like you can't spend that many points on a guy that's not delivering every game. It's just way too tough. So.
Yep. But we'll see in our deeper league when you don't have many options, you gotta eventually get a guy like this.
Right.
But I do love his high leg kick. That's always cool. I have a picture of him, I think in the 96 set doing that as well. So.
And he had he was under 500, but his stats weren't, his stats were actually not horrible.
It's really his ERA that's just bad, like really bad.
But his ERA is less than, I would say, the stud pitcher.
But it's just not good.
Right. Like it's still not good.
Close to 5 is really rough.
Right. And his whip was substantially higher than the other guy we'll talk about.
Yeah. So next up, Billy Cock, or Coach.
Yeah. I one of the two. Let's go with the first.
Cock. So the closer bonus here a little bit, but it's a 5 1 through 15 out guy. Not a lot of strikeout range.
A lot of ground balls.
Yeah, he'll do some work for you.
Right.
Looks like the silver of the border is like stabbing him in the leg here.
It's like going through his leg.
Yeah.
He's in pain. He definitely tore his ACL on this card. I honestly, I think maybe, and even when I was scanning these in, I was honestly in a zone, so it wasn't really like paying that much attention to the cards. I don't think I've ever looked at this card before. I don't think if somebody said like who was the closer on the Blue Jays in 2000, I would have had no freaking idea. And usually I have a decent idea, like a decent gauge of like at least getting a reliever or closer, but man.
Yeah, it's rough looking at his car, like at his stats too. Like, so he had like he went 0-5.
Yeah.
But he's a closer, so really he doesn't really get wins. He comes in, and if he blows the game, he gets the loss. So
Right.
you're not looking for a guy to get a lot of wins. But it's just funny to look at he didn't have the greatest year, but it wasn't super bad. But he gets the 5, 1 through 15 out. It's not a bad chart. I mean, you could use him. For 170, he's not worth it. You want the 140s, 130 range. So
Right. Yeah. No, you're right. It's so weird because it's like
especially here. We'll go right in this next card. The next guy, how do you spell this name? Graham.
I think it might be Graham. Yeah.
Graham Lloyd. For 20 less points here.
Yeah, he's great. That card rocks.
You're gonna get a 6. So yeah, terrible. With the closer bonus here. But this is the kind of guy you want. A 6 150 point guy. These guys are studs.
He's a tier 2.
You gobble these guys up all day.
He's fantastic. Yeah, he's a tier 2 for 150. Like, dude. Again, I know we've beat a dead horse over the entire series on undervalued relievers.
I just like saying closer bonus as many times as I can during.
It's
Graham. You're right.
Yeah, it's Graham. Yeah, that's a weird. I don't know where he's from, but that's a weird way.
Grame. Oh, I think it's in Australia. If I'm not mistaken.
Grame. No, that like the closer bonus was. We've said this before, but someone in our Showdown Discord, did a regression like analysis on like the closer bonus and like showed all the closers based on their stats and then like showed all the relievers based on their stats, and it was a straight up parallel line to each other for like what the average for a closer was and the average for a reliever was. So it showed you that if somebody had the same stats, for a closer and reliever, the closer was still always being 20 points more.
Yeah.
I think they did it for 2001. If I recall correctly, it definitely wasn't as pronounced because what they did was pretty much bring the relievers up to where the closers were. And that's why so many people, when they play 2001, are pissed off at the relievers amounts, I'm kind of psyched about that for our 01 NL league, just because like, whenever we do anything, and this happened in our mini season I talk about, whenever we do anything 2001, there are basically no 2001 relievers that get picked.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like it's not that it's not fun, it's just like, but like it's not like clearly there's a reason for that and everybody just goes for the value, which they should.
Yep.
So I kind of love how people are going to be forced to pick those guys now.
I agree.
I've really never played them with them, and I've never played against them. So it's going to be really bizarre that like a lot of cards that I've literally never interacted
and I'm
with.
not familiar with 01 enough that's where I'll learn and fail sort of in this draft. But I'm so used to these kind of guys and looking at this value and going, this is what I feel like the guy's worth.
Dude, this guy is 210 in 2001. It's about 200.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Next up, Brian McRae. And again, not the kind of guy you want. Weirdly crazy big walk range here. A lot of singles. Walk to single is a lot, and he's a 7. So just I don't really like it. I liked his shades.
Yeah, he looks badass on this picture. I'm not into it. Like maybe in a blind draft I'd be cool with it, but otherwise, nah. Like it's pretty miss instead of hit or miss.
Yeah.
So
next up, David Segui. Here you got it. And this this guy's an 8. C speed, which is a little rough. Not the best card in the world here, but 8's not bad.
8 for 250.
Yeah.
Double at 16.
No, the double. What's crazy is the triple.
Yeah, I literally was clicking over to figure out if there's another first baseman in this set who has a triple.
I don't think he did. Let me look at his individual stats because I know he had pennant run too.
Yeah, how did he get that? Like, all right, so let's see.
He had 3 triples on. So he started the year. This is gonna boggle your mind even more, Jeff. So he started the year in Seattle.
Oh my God, I can't wait. I haven't even gotten
So he got 3 triples in Seattle, and then he gets traded and plays the rest of the season with the Blue Jays, and so he gets 0. But he had a weird. He just no stolen base. Oh, he had 1 stolen base, 2 caught in. So it's just weird that he gets the triple, but it's just weird that he got 3 triples against Seattle. I guess big stadium. I guess I don't know.
So the triple does show up on a bunch of first basemen.
Okay,
but
C-speed guys too.
If we're talking actually, so let's even. My favorite here. I'll just say before I filter is that I was looking at it and 12 to 13 shows up and I'm like, what the fuck? That doesn't sound right. It's Richie Sexton.
Oh
which
yeah,
makes sense.
awesome.
So that card rips. So I'm gonna just do it to C-speed. There's 4.
Okay.
It's Paul Ganerco at the White Sox, Segui, Jim Leyritz from the Yankees, and Doug Mankiewicz. I think that's how you say it, from the Twins. But he's like, he is a 20 triple, like that's his thing. And then the Jim Leyritz and Canerco are both 17 triples with 18 homers, and so super weird. And those guys, like, they have first place +0. Leyritz has a catcher +5, or Mankiewicz has a first place +1. But yeah, it's that's pretty much the only 4 at this part. That's pretty unusual. But the even more unusual, and this is why, like, this is like Segui to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that feels this way, is that Segui, I believe, and I know I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but I didn't go crazy researching it. I think he's the only player to show up in each of the sets, right? The base set, pennant run for 2000 and 2001 base set pennant run. He shows up in each of those, also on different teams. So Mike Hampton shows up in those 4 as well. He has a separate card in each of those, but he's on the Mets for 2 of those cards. Segui shows up on different cards for all of them. So he starts off on the Blue Jays. He ends up in the Rangers in the 2000 pennant run. Then he's on the Indians in 2001 pennant run. And then what was
base? And then
what was that one?
He's Indians base, isn't he, for 2001?
Right. And what's his pennant run? I'm trying to remember. Baltimore.
But what's crazy is he was on Seattle at the beginning of '99. So within that stretch of basically '99 to 2001, because he actually started. He gets traded in the offseason into the Baltimore Orioles. So that's why I get the pennant run.
Dude, I feel like...
Yeah, he went on a lot. He
was paying a lot of rent, it seems like, over 2 years span. He didn't, could not settle down anywhere.
7 different teams he played on in his career in 15 years.
Yeah, and 5 of them happened in 4 years or 3 years.
3 years.
Oh my God, dude.
So
it's so
crazy.
Oh, anyway, it's super. Whenever I see Segui, like, I love it because I know he has an Indians card. I might be able to, like, cement it in my brain of where he was on those certain cards now that I've, like, looked into it. But whenever he just shows up, I remember when I'm doing inventory or something, I'm just like, what, like, he has another card? Like, what the hell? Like, it's crazy. So, but yeah, love it.
Next up, we got Shannon Stewart. So he was always a stud. And
super stud, yeah.
Yeah, so this guy had 37 stolen bases, led the team in stolen bases. He had 370 on base percentage, which is just great. And he just an overall pretty solid card. He got the low walk range here. It sucks with the 1 through 5, and again 1 through 4 ground balls just kind of stink.
Yeah.
But he's a 9 A speed, as we talked about earlier. It's not not going to overwhelm you with the chart, but he's good. He's around probably 300 points is probably his value. So I don't know.
Right. This is it's. If he was a +2 outfielder, there's no way, like, he would have gotten picked in our league. He probably would have gotten picked in a lot of other people's things, like drafts. I love this card. Like, it's just like there's so many fantastic 300-point players on this team, and like he just continues that trend. It's just like, I guess he's just like one little thing away from being kind of a player that everybody is, like, consistently keeping their eye on.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's a solid card.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I like that he's a 9 A speed. Like, that's pretty solid.
For sure, absolutely.
What's up?
One batter. He's a one batter. Like, he could be an awesome one batter. So
next up, Mr. 462 of 462 in the set.
Heck yeah.
David Wells. So branching in just below the 500-point range, which is about a 5 1 through 15 out 7 inning guy. So this is just about right. Is a 4 1 through 16 out with a 7 IP. I don't mind this card. I think he's pretty solid. This is like, I like a Brad Radke type, so this is kind of in my range. Mm-hmm. He's solid. He's nothing crazy here. Pretty good.
I think for under 500, I think for an IP7 under 500 is, especially to get a card is useful, on it's yeah, I dig this for less than 500. Of course I try to stay away from doubles, but I think like the out through 16 is pretty substantial. Even if he gives up a run, like you can still, get him through 6 innings and like not be losing control. I think that's means something. So I don't think he's ever gotten picked up in a lot of our drafts or anything,
No.
which is because again, I think like Bob said, there's too many guys that are similar to this, and you can at that point you can nitpick on ground ball or strikeout, things like that. So that's what I love David. David Wells cards are always the some of the most fun, just because he is a bizarre dude in general. So
yeah. Next up, we go into the pennant run. So we got Tony Batista again. He's back.
Like whoa.
Yeah.
Like you gotta like double take,
Yeah. So now I think he's got more power, right, in this one.
Yeah. He's definitely. I don't think he was 16 to 20 home run. I think he was 17.
Was he 17?
I think I'll double check.
Can you check
quick
for me? And I think he was 310, I believe, or something like that. 310, 320. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, he was. He's actually more expensive than base. He's 310.
Yeah.
So he is 16 homer. He doubles at 13. Seems like he's 1 through 4. I'm not looking at the other cards. You'll have to tell me, but 1 through 4 is fly ball, 5-6 walk, 7 to 12 single, 13 double, 16 home run.
That's the other card.
Yeah, that's the other.
That's
it sounds
base?
like. Yeah, and I think
so. That's exactly the same.
Okay, so I think we've talked about this before,
okay.
and we've
so
had
he's
discussions.
Just cheaper for no reason.
I think he is. I think he's exactly the same.
He's exactly the same.
Unless his third base, I think he might be a third base plus. He might be different. I think he might be third base plus 3. I could just.
He's third base plus 2, isn't he? The other one's third base plus 2. That's what it is.
No, that's Tony Batista. He's shortstop plus 3.
Oh, so now he's third base plus 1.
That's the
big difference. So he switches position.
That's fine.
That's I know him as a third baseman.
Right. I mean, for 10 points, I might as well just go get those plus 2 infield defense. But I mean, that's again, I'm done overvaluing infield defense. So,
are you?
I'm done. I'm just gonna get to my last pick, and it's just gonna be like
you're just telling us that.
No, I'm just gonna pick like one shortstop plus 5, and I'm done. If you can get one plus 4 plus 5 shortstop, you're done. Like that's it.
I agree. I think you're like, okay, I got a halfway decent infield. If I get a plus 1 or plus 2 here or there, just because I'm good. All right. So next up, we got Chris Carpenter, obviously pre Cardinals days, but this is the same card we talked about earlier. A 3, 1 through 16 out kind of guy. Is this 330 point guy?
His stats are close enough to Hetkin to make sense on why these cards are almost exactly the same. ERA and WHIP are again pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're talking about tenths of points difference. So
yeah, and again I don't like it, but I wouldn't like. I mean, I would say I wouldn't shy away because I probably would shy away from this card. But this is when he's young. He actually looks really young too in this picture.
Right.
But he's only 24 years old. But obviously had a decent career, so it's cool to see the card. Next up, Brad Fulmer. So this I think he is Expo in the base.
Yep, I think you're right.
So then he's DH here, 6 with a lot of power.
Yeah.
Look at this double range, 7 doubles.
I know it's a fucking crazy double. I honestly looked at 10 double. I was like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
And again, this is like those we've played.
Yeah, this is the kind of guy I want in a blind draft because it's just like really fucking funny.
Oh yeah. But again, we've played against guys that have teams full of 6s that are just brutal, brutal charts. The Ryan Brauns, oh my God, who's the other guy? He just destroyed me consistently. But those guys, if they get the mistake pitch, that's it. That is true. Like for me, that is the game-changing moments. It's like when a Brad Fulmer can get a mistake pitch and basically be 10 to 16 double, 17 to 24 home run. Like the game might be over at that exact moment. So
yeah, I think his chart's really fun and really cool. Obviously, I hate drafting a 6, and he's DH, which really sucks on top of that. But I just think it'd be pretty funny. Essentially, I think in a blind draft work because you don't know what kind of pitchers you're going to get in a blind draft.
Oh yeah.
So
Definitely.
when you do face like a Bartolo Colon that's a 3, now all of a sudden I got decent odds to get a chance on my chart.
Right. And again, I've said this before. I've changed my opinion on DHs. Kind of giving them a further look just because they're usually so much cheaper that it's worth it. I don't think Brad Fulmer falls under that umbrella. I think that for 180, it's like, dude, no, I'll go use those points on something else. So.
Yeah, I think the only time if I got this kind of blind draft, I'd be like, oh, this is gonna be fun. But
Right.
any other time, I'm like, no.
Oh my god! Right? Oh no!
Yeah,
Like,
fuck. All right, next up we got Alex Gonzalez. So interesting in our A speed guy here, wacky chart too. Just really kind of tips over there when he gets to 6 through 12 on the single. This is then who plays shortstop when Batista goes to third. But just not
right, for 180 or for 170, just go get him. That. At least you're doing more shit like with that amount of money, like in terms of that salary. Like at least like Alex is a great 9 hitter that if he does get it, awesome. He's doing something defensively. He's fast. So I always like fast guys in my 9 spot leading into my 1 hitter. Like maybe just because my 1 hitter is not always the fastest guy, they're usually the best hitting person. So yeah, I don't hate this card for 170. I think 2,000 overvalued, 6s a little bit, but yeah, no, you're right. The wacky chart kind of is the reason that's happening, and speed A adds the defense adds. So
yeah, it's whatever. I'm definitely not at all probably looking at the guy like this, but
no, deep league maybe.
I think it'd be more fun to play with Fulmer. I think they're just really interesting to play with.
I like the differences there. No, I'm trying to think of a lot of these players in terms of doing like an AL specific, or like a conference specific, or league specific, I should say, draft with 8 or 10 teams or so, and trying to think if these guys get some looks and I think a lot of this team does get serious looks to get drafted.
Yeah, and then for some reason doesn't.
Right, and probably not Alex Gonzalez, but it's just making me think kind of differently as the whole team. But
yeah,
I also don't think Brad Fulmer gets picked up either. But,
no.
So
next up, we got R.I.P. Roy Halladay, Doc. This is his technical rookie year, which is just awesome to see. Then I've actually played this guy before just because I thought it would be cool to play with Roy Halladay, and I thought it was interesting to see if I could do a 4 1 through 15 out that was a 7 IP. I didn't do very well with him, but what's interesting is he was the reliever part of the year in 99, and then obviously had a handful of starts, and then obviously went on to just be a really good overall starting pitcher, especially near the later Blue Jay era and into the Phillies.
This card's great.
Yeah, he's only 22 here.
It's crazy. He looks. Yeah.
He played in 98 for a couple games. Cameron played basically the full year. He had 18 games started, so half the year in the bullpen, half the year as a starter, and then after that he just became a fucking workhorse innings eater. Obviously, he was an innings eater here. He had a complete game that year too. He just was a workhorse and always was for his career. So it's cool to see the card. I don't really go for it too often, but sometimes I just feel fun to just have a little fun and play with a card like this. So
right, but if you're building a team, it's interesting to think of Halladay. IP7, Control 4.
Really depending on what kind of bullpen you were looking at.
Right, and then he's very similar to Wells, right? Yeah. Wells is the Control 4 IP7. He's out through 16, so basically flip that 16 to a fly ball with Wells. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm not looking at the strikeout pop up ground ball. It's different. Yeah. But for a 90-point difference, I'm probably gonna go Halladay in that point. In that,
I've played with him before. He's not too bad, but he's not. He's like that guy you gotta be really careful of, because he doesn't have the extra out, and he's a 4, so he's gonna do okay for you. It just I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm so pitcher heavy usually, so I rarely would even look at someone at 400. But I think if I'm getting into my 4th starter, that's what I look at. I look at
Roy Halladay all over Chris Carpenter and Pat Hennigan every day.
100%. Yeah. I think having anything about a Control 4 or better in your 4 spot, is your 4th your rotation spot is great.
Unless you're completely punting.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah,
So like that to me, I
that
see
a
400
lot.
is cheap, but yeah,
I usually punt almost all the time my fourth starter. I usually go like baller, solid, complete punt.
and that's truthfully that's why I usually have a great fourth starter,
Yeah.
because like it's just like in the same way that I think people draft a incredible pitcher as their number one. They think of it that this is an automatic win, which usually it is. I think of like a 2018 DeGrom. I think of like, Pedro and these sets. But think about it. Like they're still facing another great number one starter usually.
Mm-hmm.
I think about if you had a Roy Halladay against like a Hennigan or Hecken, or I was going to say Kelvin Escobar or whatever, but you're going to win that game. And that I think that's like, it's almost like an interesting reversal that, having an incredible fourth starter sometimes means automatic win more than having a great first starter. So anyway, there's Jeff's words of wisdom on pitcher drafting. So, I should trademark it. So,
and one more, Mr. Foil, Raul Mondesi, another big kind of monster masher, crazy chart here.
Yeah, this card's fun.
Yeah, it's really another fun card. Yeah, you said you get the 14 to 15 double, 16 with a triple, 17 home runs. It's got a lot of power. Only 300 points. You get the A speed here. 1 through 4 out, but it's mixed up enough. That's not too bad. The walk range is low. You get doubles, single pluses here. It's a fun card. I don't go for this card just because I don't like the sevens too much, but I think it'd be fun to play with. I'm not really drafting a guy like this.
Yeah, I mean, he's like, I'm just trying to think of like a hypothetical team I would have, and like, at 300 points, I usually always try to, put people in position of how many at bats do I want them to get, which is just. That's how all baseball works. But, I'll usually put like an on-base 10 or my best guy, regardless of speed, number one. Raul being 300, it's a little less than, I'm assuming I'm going to have a couple 400s, maybe a 500. He's probably my fourth or fifth in the lineup, which is fine. But it's again, like, you're right. Like that 7 is a big difference. If he gets the advantage, like hell yeah. And like these guys, like I said, like the 7s and 6s that do damage they're usually the difference between winning and losing a lot of time, just because of that mistake pitch, just in lower leagues. But
it really depends on how the league's drafting out. It's interesting. It'll be interesting for us to do our our NL only league, because I'm interested to see. Again, we only have 8 teams, but like depending on the deepness of your league, when you start to look at people going, okay, that guy grabbed a 5 control guy. That guy grabbed a 4 control guy. Okay, that guy's grabbing a 3. Okay, now we're starting to think a little bit. You start to see people maybe spend too much value on hitting. That they're going to have to punt somewhere in the pitching. You might be able to sneak some 7s in there with a lot of power for value and do some damage against those kind of teams.
Right. The best I could see, I think about if we were doing an AL 2000 league, like does he get picked up? I don't know. Like I think I honestly tough. I kind of don't think so. Like I think the best would be somebody getting towards the end, having some salary left and saying fuck it, I want a foil fun player. Right? That's probably the best justification. And just like, cuz like I'm never getting towards the end of a draft and have salary left and being like, I need my 5th guy in the lineup, right? I'm like, no, I need a guy that I can probably sneak into that 1 or 2 spot, or a pitcher that's just like somehow still available. I'm not thinking about the Mondesi, cards left. So love the card, love how it looks. Like, of course, with a foil, there's less pennant run foils. I don't know. Maybe someone can tell me why he got a foil, but I don't know. I don't like, who was he on? Who was he on in 2000? I should know that.
I don't know. Actually, my first thought was the Rays, but I didn't think that was right.
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
I think
trying to test my memory, but I don't remember him.
He was on the Dodgers, but he didn't he was 340 points, so it's not like he had I don't know what he did. I don't like he's less points, so I don't know. Like this is the pennant run foils are super confusing sometimes. I think it's less confusing because we saw in 2001 pennant run that they started giving them to prospects, which is something that they started doing later in the sets after they changed the game and we kind of lost interest. But the 2000 pennant run are even more confusing. Like they're way more confusing because Carl Everett, I mean, he got a 650 point card.
Yeah, they have a lot of errors too. It's
a lot of errors, just a lot of things. So I don't know if they just went around and just said we're why wouldn't, in theory, why didn't Roy Halladay get a foil?
Yeah.
So I think that would have been much more deserved. And like, but again, maybe, there's a lot of other people that know better, and we'll know after the fact and tell us if we're wrong. But we've seen a lot of guys that still had some popularity, and Wizards of the Coast was trying to capitalize on that as much as possible. And so he came to the Blue Jays, had some popularity, and said, nope, give him the foil. I don't care what his stats are. So
yeah. So that, everyone, is the Toronto Blue Jays. We have, I think, 6 teams left to do after this. So obviously keep staying tuned. We'll try to keep them going. Try to get them about once a week is what we're trying to do. And, it's going to be a little bit more difficult as we start our next league. But me and Jeff, and if we can get Matt and Peter back on, we'll get them going too. And we'll try to get more out for you guys. Let us know if what your guys' thoughts were on the Blue Jays, and what we missed and got wrong or whatever, or who you thought we should who we looked over or should have drafted more highly or something. Any closing words, Mr. Jeff?
No, I'm Roy Halladay for foil, man, and maybe I need to get a blown up picture of that David Wells picture, because that card, because it just looks wonderful.
I think we learned that we like Carlos Delgado at 410.
Yeah, the closing thoughts is Delgado at 410 is it's my pick.
It just seems very valuable. Essentially, look at this card here. So this is a 7 that has a 17 home run. So Delgado's a 9 17 home run. For 110 more points, you get a 2 more on base.
Right. I feel like I looked at the Delgado card. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And then I feel like every other card on this team, not to say they're bad, but all the other cards have made the argument for how Delgado's so good. So. Yeah.
So maybe we gotta relook at that, but then you guys let us know. But I kind of like thinking back, like that Delgado's not that bad.
right. He's a 200. I've got where can I see? Oh, it's over. It's kind of out of reach, but I can. I got my 2001 Delgado card, because in a little card frame, he's 200 points more, right? Yeah. And I don't know if there's 200 points more value there. So anyway, yeah, I really digging that. There's a lot of. I should have started keeping a list of when we talk about these cards. I feel like there's certain cards I talk about so often and so much, and I get so fixated on, that I should have been writing them down. And then the next time there's a draft or they're available, I just have to fucking pick them, right? I think he's one of them, and I think John Jaha is another one.
Well, lucky for you, there's 24 videos of podcasts that you can relive and re-listen to.
I can't listen to myself talk that much. That'd be way too self-indulgent and a little scary. So if I gotta go tell my wife if she sees me doing that to pull the plug on my computer.
My wife knows I won't, because she'll be like, she'll hear me oh, are you complaining about how your voice sounds on audio? I'm like, yeah, again, I hate my voice.
And she's like, come help me with the kids, right?
Yeah. Put these kids to bed. Jeez Louise.
Right. Well, you're listening to yourself, our kids need to go to sleep.
Yeah. Actually, that's gonna be pretty cool. It's a totally separate note, obviously, but how many people we have in our NL only leagues have kids, and everyone's like, kids, gotta put my kids to bed. And my kids don't sleep, so I'm like, fuck, my kids are gonna be here drafting with me.
Right. No, it's funny navigate. I love that we're so to catch a ray, we're trying to figure out time to do this draft for this, and I love it because we're talking about a game that we were all playing when we were 7, 8, 10, 11, however old. So we're trying to figure out time to do this draft for these cards, right? But then we're all talking about when our kids are going to sleep and what time periods we have. And I was literally playing Pokemon. Pokemon has a really good trading card. I was playing with my nephew, and it was 10:30, and I'm like, guys, I have to go to bed. And my sister's like, yeah, he doesn't go to bed till 11:30. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, I'm kind of jealous of all the guys in the league that can get their kids down to bed early, but
oh my god,
my kids, I'm pretty sure will be running in and out of the draft. Now, and for everyone listening that's obviously still listening to this long into the podcast, but we will hopefully have a lot of it recorded, especially hopefully the draft, and so that might be pretty fun to listen to. Especially me bitching and moaning during the whole thing. I'll probably be drinking during that, I assume.
Oh, for sure. I will definitely record the draft, see if it's worthy.
Yeah, I don't know how many rounds. We'll probably do the first so many online, and then we might do the rest unrecorded offline. So you guys you have to pay attention to the final results. But
right, I think we'll probably do a we haven't talked this through, but at least do a draft recap and team breakdown.
Oh, like we normally do, we can rip on each other.
Right, 100%. Why would you have done that? That was a terrible 3rd round pick. So
that's always great. That we gave one of my buddies I think a C+ one year, and then he won the league.
Dude, those are my favorite. Yes, we have to do that again. We were just
quote,
it was a lot of
experts.
Right. I mean, honestly, that team was bad. Team was shitty, but that team was full of like on base sixes who homered at 14 and they
but
got the
Showdown.
advantage and they hit home runs.
Pray to the dice gods.
Right. And so it was, I will have to do that because that was always a lot of fun. And it's fun giving, it's funny giving, A's the teams that end up being bad and D's the teams that be good. What do we know?
It also makes you realize, I think, what you value. So when you're doing a draft recap, you're saying, oh, I like this guy's team because I value this and this and this, and that's why I gave it an A. But when it plays out, you're like, oh, maybe I overvalued this, undervalued that. Like you talked about earlier in this podcast about how you've undervalued charts. Well, that guy that we gave the C+, his charts were fucking stacked.
It made me think he beat me in the World Series because of that.
Yeah.
And it like made me look at it differently and being like, like fuck.
Now again, he got extremely fucking lucky. Don't get me wrong. His team was not that good. But
so like on an average case, like maybe he doesn't make the World Series, but I think there's like something there
I agree.
to pull at,
So all right, well, thank you guys everyone for listening, and obviously stay tuned, pay attention because we have more content coming, hopefully playing online games and doing this new draft, and you guys can pay attention to that league, and we'll hopefully keep stats and everything. So thank you everybody. Thank you, Jeff.
Peace.